Good evening. How are you? Well, it's cold outside, it's raining, and it's dark. And one of the reasons I'm in this predicament is we spent a longer time at Johns Hopkins today, and the reports were very good. And Holly's passed 6 months since the operation on March the 26th. And the first week I was terrified on two occasions that I didn't think she was going to make the evening. But she's gotten her strength back, and she does have some things she's fighting with because of the medication, we think, and we'll find out how they work. And you always have to worry about rejection and infection. So that's our concentration. But the remarks they made were very encouraging. But that's why I'm back after dark in the cold and the rain. Of the people who are in the news that interest me, there's a Carrie Lake, and she's out of Arizona, and she was a Fox host and anchor, and she's running as a Trump clone, and they say that, and they describe her as Trump with heels. Very cute. I guess she's not upset about that fact that the metonymy, the use of the part for the whole, has her identified with her heels. I don't know if they're spiked or not, but her politics is similar, parallels Trump in every way that would raise your animosity, antagonism, and force you as an intelligent voter to recoil from supporting her. Yet, there she is running for governor in Arizona. It was interesting, the Washington Post led off with the fact that she doesn't say, when she's talking. Now, and everybody at some point or other unconsciously takes a pause and says, when they're trying to think of the word. And yes, it's better training not to say it. And she talks in complete sentences. Now, I don't know if that story was prompted by Herschel Walker, who does kind of have a word salad, but more important to me than how he speaks, it's what he lies about. It's what she lies about. It's what all of these Trump clones lie about to get into office, to do the terrible things they want to do. Now, I'm talking to you from Virginia, and our governor is a guy named Youngkin, and he has no background in prosecutions, for example. Although to hear him, you think he was a little TR, Teddy Roosevelt, taking over Virginia and showing us how it gets done. But instead, what he's done is he's run down local prosecutors who are trying to have more balanced approaches to community policing. I've always thought there are two kinds of law enforcement officers. There are Nazis, and then there are peacekeepers. And I don't mean that they don't use force, and I don't mean that they don't enforce the law. There's a difference in emphasis between a militarist, who is your local officer, and the guy on the beat you could trust. In my old neighborhood in the South Bronx, if the uncle on the beat, you knew him, you wouldn't talk to him. You wouldn't say anything to him. And I have that bias as a defense counsel to this day. So what is it about Trumpkin that upsets me? What upsets me is he seems to be interfering in the counties across the Commonwealth of Virginia to have a more draconian sense of justice. But I think it's measured by where you are in the income scale. For example, I don't think anybody of the ilk of Youngkin's wealth is going to be bothered. Middle class, yeah, maybe, based on what we think are your partisan feelings, choices. So he wants to recruit from outside of Virginia law enforcement people. Now, I'm sure in Virginia, if you have the money and you're going to spend it, that we have resources in Virginia of officers who would care about the community, who are there to be a peace officer. And I don't mean that they let crimes go by. I mean that they understand that this is not a military situation. They're not in Fallujah. They're not in Afghanistan in some backwater. That they are here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and the people in the community where they're responsible to police. I think it's good that they live here. But he wants to reach outside of Virginia, not just for prosecutors and police, but he wants to reach outside. He doesn't want to take the people who are here. This is the kind of sickness that comes from ignorance of what does work in law enforcement and what he's trying to do. The thing that is pleasing to me is that on Friday this week, Bannon will face a sentence from the judge, and he will get he could get up to 2 years if they took the two misdemeanors, ran them consecutively. The government has asked for 6 months confinement in jail, and that's reasonable. But because of what he did outside the court, if I were the judge, when he was speaking outside the court in contradiction of what the judge said he may not speak of and uses a defense in the court, I would be concerned about that. The fact that he has done nothing to provide any documents to the Congressional Committee, the January 6th committee, if I were the judge, I'd be concerned about that. You said you were going to do it, and then when you couldn't get a deal from us at the courthouse, then you didn't do it. So it wasn't sincere. It was a kind of a deathbed conversion, not true death, but a metaphorical death of the freedom of yourself as a civilian who walks free among the people rather than spend 6 months or more time in prison. There are other stories. Those of us who care about horses are upset that the Bureau of Land Management is allowing the killing of, quote, wild horses. They call them instead unauthorized livestock. Unauthorized livestock equal killing. Whereas if you call them wild horses, well, maybe you'd feel more guilty about killing them. There are things that strike me from my own experience. For instance, the notion that a person should be able to speak without saying or saying and that they should speak in complete sentences. But this is a patina of expertise. The question is, can you arrange the facts and find out what's true? And that's a different thing. Can you interpret it and suggest a plan to go forward? Governing is about trying to make a difference. That is, to meet problems that exist and to find programs that will, in the future, make a big difference to the people that you govern. Civilization is, after all, how we treat our people. There's a defense attorney in the Durham case, and I celebrate the fact that Durham lost this case. The guy is innocent. Durham was always a get the Democrats prosecutor, and he had this BS case. But I was concerned about his defense. Sears, who's apparently a very good lawyer, I'm not sure it's the one that I know. I know one from the Southern District of New York. But he made the argument that if Rudy believed that what he was doing was, then you couldn't prosecute him for knowing what he was doing. That's nonsense. Belief is not the same thing as what a reasonable person does in that circumstance. So, for example, if you have 20 people telling Rudy or telling Trump what's going on, and then he says, I don't know, I didn't know what was going on, and so forth. So, I don't have anything more dramatic than that to talk about. The one thing that stirs me day to day is what the voters will do on Election Day this year. Will they decide that the value that matters to them causes them to get up, if they haven't already voted absentee, and vote for a Democrat? I say a Democrat this year more than any other year because the Republican Party is held hostage by a group of very strange, unorthodox, cultist, monarchists who choose to ignore our law and our Constitution, who choose to disrespect and discriminate against people based on any number of things, preferring in the roughest sense of description I can give that you're non-white, that you're non-Christian, that you came here from someplace else, and except for the original, quote, natives, the people who were here, everybody came here from someplace else. The Flannerys came here from someplace else. There's a sickness, in other words, in these candidates, whether it be Kari Lake or Herschel down in Georgia. And the sickness is that they don't really care to help people. to make a difference in America. They are a source of very serious division, just borderline, borderline violent. That's what we see. And it's a combination of anti-intellectual, prejudice, ignorance, not trying to find out what the real facts are because you've ignorantly decided that Trump is your guy because you like the way he breaks China. He's a bull in a China shop, and the China shop, however, is America. And the things that we have are delicate and took years to forge and to create and to preserve and to protect. And they want none of that. They want to tear it all down, for they care not what might replace it. So I can't spin around in my room. I would hit the speed bag a couple of times to show you that I can do that, but I don't think it's a major effort. I think of exercise as maintenance at this age, although years ago I competed in what do they call it, a seniors Olympics or something like that, and I got a gold medal for swimming the 500-yard freestyle. Freestyle was always my favorite stroke. So we must swim along to Election Day, doing everything we can between now and then to encourage people to vote for Democrats. And on the morning after the election, or several days, because they'll have to count absentee votes, we'll find out what America is today. We'll get a snapshot. Now, it may not be determinative in the sense of our last breath as a democracy, but the enemy will be apparent, and we'll have about 2 years to save America if we haven't saved it this election. And if we haven't saved it this election, then what is it that we failed to say? Is America beyond saving? I don't believe so. I believe there's a light shining. I see it in the women who are protesting. I see it in the various groups that care that individual rights be respected. I see it in those who want to do something great rather than to spend their life at each other's throat. I think all of those things matter, and that is what's going to save America. We, the people. That is the theme I've embraced, frankly, my whole life, going back to the 60s. And so I hope you agree, and I know you'll do all that you can, and it's a pleasure visiting you, warm and dry indoors. Tomorrow, hopefully, I'll see you on the trail. Bye-bye.